guys, it's Beryl from Forever Yours Flowers back again. I am going to get you to come into my world when I spray paint a flower. Just a little bit of an insight in what I do. Every flower that, yes, I do use base stock. Yes, my base stock does come from China, but every flower I've got is hand touched. I am worried that a head would fall off a flower, so I rewire everything. Prime example of that is, this is a lovely, beautiful white, pure white silk rose. This is what happens. I would be devastated if at a wedding one of my flowers was to come off on the groom or the bride or the bridesmaid or the mother of the bride. It doesn't matter. I rewire everything. So what I will do is I use an awl, which is one of my, I call it the pokey stabby tool, but that's okay, that's just me. So I will rewire, sorry, hang with me for a moment, just get my piece of wire, and I will rewire every flower so that sometimes they don't come through, so that there is no possibility of this head coming off this flower. And this is just, whoops, sorry there guys. This is using florist paper tape, not the parafilm. I prefer the paper tape, but this all comes down to personal opinion, or whatever your fingers like is what I actually say. You also need wire cutters, because if you want to level things out, you need a pair of wire cutters, sometimes a knife, and I'll also use scissors, because with these flowers, of course, they just don't look very natural being that long. So I will trim them off. And then I know for a fact if that is in a bouquet, that will not fall apart. But today we are going to clean up my bench a bit so I can be a bit cleaner for you guys. We're going to rewire and spray paint a Real Touch flower. I always remove the leaves because they're in the wrong spot. They would look better up there, so we'll put those over for later. Again, I take my scissors, I will trim just these pieces off. And the reason I trim those off is they interfere with the spray when I go out and hand spray or whatever I do. I do not trust that these will not fall apart, even though I do test them. But see, I can already see, whoops, see that one did fall apart. I am not happy with that. So I will still, even though the Real Touch is a better quality flower, beautiful to work with, I don't trust that its head will not fall off, and I do not want that to happen. Okay, sometimes they do not bear with me. Whoops, I get the wire, and sometimes it just does not want to go through, but this one did. I use a bit of a heavier gauge wire for the rose heads because they're much heavier. If I was worried about weight, I would take the stem off. But at the moment, I want this. This is just going to be a single rose that I'm going to put into a design later. I'm still using my paper tape from my florist paper tape. And because I don't like the fact that the wire can stick into my fingers, I will peel it down until I've protected the bottom of the wire. If I know the length of my flower, I will cut it straight off and shorten it so it's easier to work with. And that is the start of my painted flower. He's going to end up quite dark. I'm thinking of along this line with maybe a bit of sparkle, but let's find out what will happen to him. Let's head out to the room where it's much safer for us to paint my flower. Come on, off we go. Hi guys, we're now out in my outdoor room. There is a door over there. I always make sure it's well ventilated because these are toxic paints. I either use a leather apron or I use my little cotton one. Today we'll put this one on, tie him up because I do not want to wreck my good clothes. Now, the other thing I always go to is gloves. I don't want to put paint on my fingers. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create ourselves a flower. I always keep the flower back and I start, even though the flower is going to be black, I always start with a little bit of green just to give the flower texture. And then I will build up my colours. Now this one here is called Cherry Tone. It's more like a brown, but that's okay, that's fine. My flower. Now when you do this, you notice that there's little bits of glue, so make sure you take them off. So I slowly build up my theme. This one's black cherry, and this one will bring the real red into the image, giving it real depth. And now you've got to be careful to make sure that you do get, this is where you need to have gloves. You need to get down into there because you don't want it to, and of course, as you can tell, the green has totally disappeared, but it does put depth into the flower. And I'm thinking we might need just a touch more black in places. Not much because I don't want it to be too dark. I'm not happy with in there, so we'll put a little bit more green to get more depth. Now, so the whole thing about spraying a flower is creating depth. And I can assure you, I do this to 100 flowers. This is what takes time. This is why when I do my flowers, I expect perfection. I will always take this flower, I will set it down in its little foam box, like so. Sometimes it goes in, sometimes it doesn't. It's not going to go in today, oh yes. And I will come back and then I will once this is dried, I will then see if it's got enough depth and I may repaint it again. So, and this could go on for a whole week. Hi guys, we're back in the studio now. Now, here I have my little flower. Let's take my apron off, throw that over there. He's out the way. And I always put this little guy onto a white piece of paper so that I can see him properly. Okay, let's get ourselves comfortable. Now, looking at my little amazing little flower I have here, which I think is pretty cool. But when I look at this guy, I realise that this was for a romantic wedding shoot. He's not very romantic, so I decided my favourite thing is glitter spray. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it's not, okay. And therefore I will give him just a little bit of sparkle. And this is the other reason why I put down white paper, because I always change my mind and want to add just a fraction more colour. Now, isn't he beautiful? I like my flower. And he is how I created this little guy. He's my romantic headpiece that would sit sideways on your head. It was something I completed for a photo shoot just recently. And yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? He's now up for sale. You can find him on my website. But this is how I made my beautiful, which used to be white flower, into a little black rose that is good for any special occasion. I'm glad you came on this adventure with me. Now you can find us on Facebook at Forever Yours Flowers, Instagram at Forever Yours Flowers, and Pinterest at Forever Yours Flowers. Or you can find us at www.foreveryoursflowers.com.au. This is Beryl from Forever Yours Flowers signing off. I hope you love my little flower like I love him. Bye for now.